see if everybody likes it, if it's something you're experimenting with. And I think that's important too. And it's amazing because people try things and they go, oh my God, this is so good. Yeah. This is wonderful. And it expands people's, their horizon. And they ultimately are going to be healthier.
Yeah.
Because they're using better quality. They're cooking for themselves. It's so important.
And then when your customer is successful in, treating whatever ailment, then ultimately that'll probably lead to your success in the success of your
so
your
they
store.
recommend me to somebody else.
Yeah.
And there are times when, somebody comes in and I might recommend some herbs, but because of their complicated health history, I will write things down and say, discuss this with your doctor. We don't just do things willy-nilly. And I'm not versed in all the pharmaceuticals out there. I mean, there's some things I know about, but there's some things that I'm, there's new medications all the time. People come in and, they put me on this. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I have some books, I have PDR, I can look things up. I mean, there is ways of finding out, but, you have to be careful. You don't just do things willy-nilly.
Yeah.
I had a woman years ago, she bought something at a craft show, and somebody was selling herbal products, and she came in and she had given it to her husband, and he said it made him sick and he was not going to take it again. And she wanted me to say, well, it's all natural, it's fine. And she was surprised because I said, flush it down the toilet. And she looked at me, and I said, if your husband said that he had a bad reaction, just because it's natural doesn't mean it can't hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenic is natural.
Yes. And so, the red dye is taken from a certain beetle. And there are people who are allergic to red dye. It's because they're allergic to the beetle.
Really?
Yes. So there's a lot of things. So this is very, we're a delicate balance.
Yeah.
We're a very delicate balance, and it doesn't take much to throw us off.
Yeah, or even in our chemical aisle, we have pyrethrin, which is a natural occurring
and probably neem,
pesticide, and neem.
Yep.
But the pyrethrin, the lab version or the synthetic version is permethrin, and the permethrin's safer for humans than the natural pyrethrin.
Yeah.
Well, my wife, just as an aside, my wife bought me a new cap at the recent flower show in Connecticut, and it was impregnated with permethium.
For the bugs.
For bugs and for ticks. And I asked her, please just take it back. I don't need this. It's not one. A tick is not going to start at my head, and the mosquitoes, the cigar will take care of that. So.
Well, the other thing is whatever's on your skin in 10 minutes is in your bloodstream. People don't realize that. So a lot of these bath products and things with all kinds of chemicals, you're soaking them in and they're in your bloodstream. And it's moving throughout your body. Mm-hmm. And I've always had problems with sensitivities to chemical smells for years. My family all thought I was nuts. Now there are more people. One of the worst places for me to visit is the laundry aisle at a grocery store. The smells are just, there's a few products I always use, unscented, no dyes kind of things. Or I also have rashes. I have skin sensitivities and smell issues. So this is something we need to keep in check. Be aware of it. Be aware if you're having a bad reaction to something and eliminate it.
Great. So as we head into spring here and maybe the snow will melt soon, what are some things that we can grow in our garden that's easy for us to, get started growing in our own gardens that, will be remedies for, maybe allergens or colds or even, I don't know if there's anything else like stress.
It depends. Well, stress is an interesting one. There's an herb called Tulsi. We call it holy basil. It's actually a basil. And it is very good for stress. People can, there's like 4 kinds of it, different varieties. And that is good. There's two varieties that actually can interfere with your glucose, though. And people who have blood sugar problems, it can alter their glucose monitoring. And then there's one variety that you can't use if you're pregnant. So that's another thing. If you're pregnant or nursing, there are certain herbs that you should avoid. I had a woman that had a baby. She was taking ginseng, Panax ginseng, which is a stimulant for energy, and wondering why the baby wasn't sleeping. And I said, oh my God, stop the ginseng. That's not what you want to do. But if you have a colicky baby and you're nursing, you can drink chamomile tea, and that would help the baby. So, so that's something, if you're pregnant or nursing, you have to be careful what you're doing with your herbs too.
Mm-hmm. So what are some ones you'd recommend, as if I'm an entry level herbalist?
Well, chamomile is easy to grow. There's the annual chamomile, which is the Roman chamomile. That's and it self seeds. And it has it's a better tasting. The perennial chamomile grows in a dense low mat. It has the same medicinal properties and aromatherapy properties, but it has more of a camphor smell. It's not as pleasing as the annual chamomile. And what happens is the annual chamomile, it'll self-seed itself the end of August usually. It goes to seed, and then next year you have chamomile plants coming up. And it doesn't like the hot sun. It seems to like more of a humus soil. My first foray with growing chamomile is I planted it in a very dry, well-drained soil that my thyme and my lavender and the Mediterranean dry-loving plants did very well. My chamomile didn't make it. But the following year, which was interesting, is it came up in a front bed that was somewhat shaded. And I had chamomile every year as long as I lived there, enough for myself.
So you think more moist, less dry soil?
Yeah, it was a little moist and not that hot sun.
Yep.
And it did but it transplanted itself. That was what the amazing. Well, I'm sure a bird helped it or something. Oh. But it was amazing. And so chamomile's good. Nettle, if you're lucky enough to have it on your property, you can contain it. You don't have to let it just go crazy. Yeah. But that's a good plant to grow. Red clover is wonderful. These are some of the plants that it's considered an invasive, but it's a blood purifier and a lymphatic cleanser. That's a good tea.
Well,
the red clover
pastures with red clover, don't we?
Yeah.
And what do you use? The
flower.
The flower.
The flower. Whenever you're picking flowers, you want to do it when they're at their maximum beauty. So you don't want things that are withered or dried. Right. You want them. So even your chamomile. And the best time to harvest stuff is early in the morning, after the dew has dried, first thing, or before the dew set in the evening. And that's because, like us, plants lose their vigor during the heat of the day. They've lost a lot of the moisture and they're not at their peak. So that's when you would harvest flowers.
That's what we call nap time.
Yes, nap time. Yes, if we're lucky enough to be able to take a nap time. So, yes. Now, most Americans do not live the European lifestyle, unfortunately.
I think that's Len his new endeavors in his retirement.
Yeah,
yes,
that's good. That's good.
It's very important.
Yes, and it helps on a lot. It helps your energy level, your longevity, your well-being, your health, mental, physical. We don't get enough rest in this country, and everybody go, push yourself. And people need to take some time out. And that's what's nice about a cup of herbal tea. You take the time to make it, and then you sit and you take the time to drink it. And, that whole process may take 20 minutes, but that's 20 minutes you're giving yourself. And that's, sometimes that's more important than the actual benefit of what you're drinking.
So it sounds like it's a little bit of both. It's more of, moderating or focus on what your intake is of certain things and what's available and, things like the holy basil and the chamomile, but also, the physical practice and your physical lifestyle. And those two things together is that
Yes.
all in whole, the
Well, it's
holistic
keeping
approach, or
a balance, they call it like a work-home balance, people having some recreational time, and it's just like people are just push, and there's little respect for what individuals need. You need some downtime, and people with families, that's hard too. Sometimes just to have your own downtime, just for yourself.
yeah,
All this is important, and being aware of it. A lot of people they're not paying attention. I always say, if by 30 your body starts talking to you. Sometimes I see people with health issues that are younger, but by 30 your body starts talking to you. People usually can't keep up the pace that they did in their 20s, their teens in their 20s. By 35, your body starts slapping you in the back of the head. And if you don't listen, God is going to grab you by the scruff of the neck and shake you till you pay attention. And that's an analogy I use because, and even in my own experience, things shifted at 30. I saw a shift in my metabolism. And now that I'm more than twice that, my body is telling me all the time, hey, you don't want to do that, or you did too much, and you need to pay attention. You need to do things that are going to remedy those situations. And the other thing is, if you let something go on long enough, it becomes chronic. So you need to address issues as they come up.
And just like for, through our own research or coming in and speaking with yourself about, what are the ailments we're seeing or the symptoms, and, what we can take is both what looks like a combination of lifestyle change a little bit and
sometimes, yes,
something to remedy it. But I have yogi tea every night.
Yeah, that's good.
The bedtime or the stress relief.
That works for a lot of people. Helps them sleep. Yeah.
And if not, I get a little enjoyment out of the little fortunes or wisdom that come on the tea tag.
Yeah. But it's taking your mind off of the stress of the day.
Yeah.
You're shifting your mindset, and even just doing some deep breathing. I mean, there's little tools you can use throughout the day. Women frequently will be having a moment and they might go to the ladies' room, I don't know if men
I've
do
never
that.
been to the ladies' room.
No. But I don't know if men really go to the men's room for a moment. But a lot of times I've had women tell me, when that happens, I just go into the ladies' room and, kind of sit there for a few minutes and pull myself together. And, you need to do that sometimes, or you need just to walk away, or my sister-in-law is telling her children, I can't stand the sight of you right now. And they knew when she said that, they better leave her alone for a little while till she was ready to deal with them again. And, so we all need to recognize our limits.
So I have a lot of friends right now who have young kids, and it seems like one person in the family gets sick.
Everybody gets sick.
Everybody's sick, and then nobody gets better because everybody keeps getting sick, over, long durations. It's just hanging around the household.
Part of that is, it's interesting. We fight so hard against colds. There are over 200 cold viruses. And the reason people don't get sick when everybody else gets sick, they already had it. It helps build your immune system. And we're so concerned with children not having a place to go because the parents work that we're worried about them getting sick. But a certain amount of that is normal. I wasn't particularly sick very much as a kid, but we ate whole foods and vegetables. We cooked dinner every night. We had our share of junk food, but we had our share of fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. And that things weren't processed the way they are now. So I think that I was fairly healthy. And even in college, my friends they didn't like the food. They'd eat ice cream. They were always sick. I rarely had a cold, but I ate the food. Maybe it wasn't the greatest, but I ate it because I was hungry. So I think nutrition is very important. There are some things like the sambucus, which is the elderberry syrup, can help. You might get the cold, but it might cut down the duration and the severity of the cold, mm-hmm. which is helpful. If you're having fevers, chills, that's probably more a flu virus. It's a little more serious than a cold. That there's other things you might use, but depending to some children spike very high temperature.